Hello everyone. Thank you for being so a lot for this second session of this day. Very happy to host for the second session Effie Paleologou, Moe Suzuki, and Martin Parr. And we'll start with you, Effie Paleologou. You are amongst the most important Greek photographers. You studied in the Royal Academy of Art in London, Royal College, where you live and still work. Your work has been exhibited nationally and internationally and is held in collection with the Victoria and Albert Museum and the National Museum of Contemporary Art in Athens. So we're going to focus today on your last, but actually on your first book, which is important to say, Tales of Estrangement, that refers to a mysterious and fragmented cityscape of two places, London and Athens, both of which you have come to regard as almost home. So, Effie, my first question is, can you tell us more about the genesis of this project and the feeling of being in this in-between that is evoked in the title?
Yes, let's start by saying that, by now, what is it on?
Close the...
Yes, close. I've been living in London, really, for 30 years. So I think lots of people probably, they find themselves in my position, in this kind of voluntary immigration. I didn't go there as an immigrant. I went, out of the desire to study, and because I could, and then I've stayed. But the interesting thing is, even in this kind of privilege situations like mine, after a while, at least after 5, 10 years, you start feeling this divide and this sense of belonging, and where do you belong? Because of course I'm Greek, that's like my cultural DNA. I would never ever belong to England or to London, but my everyday life is there for years. And then most importantly, and for this project, is that when I go to my country and what I consider my city, Athens, I felt like a tourist. So I think this is the tension and the pull I try to address in this project.
So you talk about exile in a way, and this feeling of being home is not a place, as the title of a book repeats.
I think, I have to stop you. I think exile is a term that we have to be very, very serious about, and when we're using it, it's not light-hearted. And as I said, I'm not an exile. I mean, initially, to do this project, the title I had, it was on self-imposed exile, which actually in Greek, the word is beautiful, the self-imposed exile, because it doesn't even, when we use it, it doesn't involve, doesn't refer to space. You can be in your room, in your chair, you see, and to be in a self-imposed exile. But actually, I didn't want to use this term at all, because, as I said, there are some terms that we have to be very, very serious about. And if anything, I would go back to an idea more of an émigré, let's say, in the past, that I'm interested.
So to express visually this immigrantality, you choose to show images, to produce images by night of cities, of those both cities, empty. We don't feel any human presence in a way, but also we can feel somehow human presence, but we don't see any humans. and there's light, artificial light. There's movements also, still images that are not really still. A lot of here we have a image of coming from a train. So why did you choose to? How did you think this project through this image? What did you want to express?
I mean, like most things, this project doesn't come out of nothing. It's not sui generis. It's very much based in a project that I've worked for years and years called Mini City. And it was really then concentrated in the city and the idea of the metropolis, the big city, in modernity. We're in Paris. That's the birth, with Haussmann and the 19th century prototype, archetypical city. And I had done work in London, Paris, and New York back then, but mainly London, which for me, it was, when I read that, was the foreign place. It was a place that I was trying to make sense, as I was saying, about. And it's, I worked on this project for a long time, 10 years. I had already have this, if you want, the elements of the night and the light. Because to me, one of the important things about the city is an artificial environment. And if you come at night, that is a second transformation of artificiality, if you see what I mean. So it was, these things as language, as visual language, they had been resolved, I think, you know, already when I embarked on this one, which again about two cities, but this one is much more, in essence, is a very personal. You know, I don't want people to, it's not important that people knows that, but it is about this pull, the in-between. And at the same time, it's a different way of mapping, and is a mapping of internal as well as external place.
So I was mentioning it just before. It's your first book. This is as surprising as you have been exhibited internationally already. You're in collections, etc. So how did this happen? Why did you choose actually this work for your first book, and why did you want to do a first book?
I think that is a very nice, like, anecdotal story that I can say, because I didn't decide to do this project. I didn't decide to do this book. What I did decide, I wanted to do a book with a different project, that it was finished, sorted, I was confident about it. And that's how I approached the publisher, Michael Mack. And him coming in to the studio, evidently we looked at other things. And as in talking, I mentioned that is an ongoing project exists under the title of Self-Imposed Exile. And he inquired, do you have any images? I had 7 images. And he said, I want this one. So in some way, it was almost I was commissioned. And that is the interesting thing. And I think because of this, it was so amazingly difficult at the beginning, the first 6 months, because I did said yes. But my practice, you know, you're in certain places in life. And I think I was doing that. I had almost abandoned it almost when I was still calling it in progress. But so I had to go back, and that's why the first 6 months they were very, very demanding in every sense way, and emotionally and ethically and whatever. But then I found my link, as I said before, by going to Athens and realizing being a stranger, because that's the thing, right? In Athens, in my own city. And I think that started and trigger and unravel this project.
So How did you work the layout? Did you work the layout, and how did you think? We can see that there's one image per double page on the right side. It's a mix of images you took in Athens and in London. How did the selection worked, and why this chronology of images?
It's not a chronology, the images. There's no chronological order. It's an order in making a story and, you know, creating a narrative, which was probably the most time consuming. And, you know, some things, disasters, even like COVID, they are blessings in disguise, because I did have lots of time to do the editing. And, you know, by the time I reached a point that I couldn't move one image and put in the place of another, I knew it was done. And because it is about a hybrid city, really, and non-existent and fictitious place, and to me this book, that I think that's the important thing to be said, that it was conceived as a book. Most artists, and you know, as myself actually, when I went to Michael Mack, I went with a project already, that it had been exhibited, it had existed, it had been done. So most people, I think, they first do the work for exhibition purposes, and then that becomes the book as a record of the work. To me, the most important thing is that, and I think that's, I would have never done the work the way I did it, because I was doing it with a book in my mind. So somehow, still the ideal format and end product of this work is this book.
So, so you had always in mind this idea of the book, and you already had in mind the layout, or how? I mean, you wanted it was important for you that it was a book, but how did you? How can I say this? By producing those images, how did you feel that you felt that the narrative was going on as if you were doing a book? But how that happens when you're producing?
When you're producing, you know, making a book requires probably, at least in my mind, the way I was thinking, more of a volume of work, which in other words allows for more space to address your subject from different angles. You know, there is not this kind of something being very controlling, being told in 7 images for an exhibition in a thematic that is. It gave me this freedom to address it. And in my mind, it is a book proper, you know. In my mind, this is the closest I can think is like a collection of short stories, whether there is a title, and everything falls under it, and everything, its little story or whatever, approach it, or sheds light in a different way. And that was one of the most important decisions, that I decided not to have titles, but just numbers. I have titles in my mind, but for me it was important that each image doesn't have a title.
And can you tell us about those drawings that we can see at the opening and at the end of the book? What does they symbolize?
As I said, this book, and you know, I have to say that my collaboration with the publishers, they were very, as I say, you know, following the editing I had done, they were very accommodating. But to me, that's like the book, as I said, is the work. And then I had this idea, and finally we went ahead to address the same issue in a different way, with drawing. So, again, people don't need to know that, but the opening and the closing inside pages, the 2 cities, the maps, the city maps of the cities juxtaposed with each other, creating a third, non-existent, imaginary, you know,
City.
fictitious
city,
City,
where
yes.
you live.
Yes, that's my city. I claim that it's precisely. I feel this is my city.
And why is it different from the one? Well, the two
Yes, there
drawings are
two.
different. It's
Yes,
two
yes.
different.
There are two different versions of the drawing, and even there, to be. In the first one, I have done first the layout of London, and then of Athens, and then London, and at the end is the other way around. So they're very similar, but they're at the same time they're different.
Thank you, Effie. Do you have some questions on the project or on the book? Have more info? No? Well, thank you very much. Oh, you have got it.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Effie.
Hi, Fran.
Could you talk a little bit about the writers that have written for you in the book and how you came to find them, or why they interested you?
Yes. I'm really blessed, and actually, thank you, because they contributors, and I'm very lucky to have two authors.
And not
and
well-known authors.
Sorry?
Well-known authors.
Yes, well-known authors, but again, I didn't want to go, from the photographic, if you see, or critical theory or whatever. It was very important for me, as I say, to be from a writer's point of view and understanding. And Ian Sinclair, I've known already for years, and I've collaborated in the past. And he gets his input. I had his input before. And then Brian Dillon, although I didn't know very well his work, it was, mentioned to me. I look at his work. I felt this is, a kindred spirit. This is important for me. And then I was very, very lucky to accept it. But I'm very, very happy. Yeah, we're grateful. I'm very grateful. Very, very grateful.
Okay. Thank you very much, Effie, for your book, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Are you signing? I don't know.
No,
You already signed.
It's signed.
But you're still here. So.
But the only thing I can say, I don't know how many people. The book launch is going to be in London, 2nd of December, at the Photographers Gallery. If anyone is in London, please come and say hello.
Okay, thank you very much.